The Dubuque Area Arts Collective presents Ruix Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ruix Podcast. This is episode 12. My name is Jon Eagle. Today's episode is going to be a doozy. I wouldn't, chances are I'm not going to tell you at the beginning of the episode. Today's episode is going to be a shitty one. I think they're all awesome. But today's episode is going to be particularly interesting and fun. I think you'll all enjoy it. But I'll get into that in a minute. It has been a little while since I've been down here in the Ruix basement. There's been a bit of a lull in the podcast activity the last couple of weeks since the last episode with Bob. I was supposed to meet with Miles Nielsen last weekend, and he had to reschedule. So that's still forthcoming. We are going to meet in a couple of weeks for a later episode, but yeah. Sorry about that. That episode did not materialize like it was supposed to. Like I said, today's episode is going to be an exciting one. I'm very psyched to be talking to Ray Harpo Hutchinson today. I always say that I'm psyched. I feel like Matt Pinfield. Does anybody even remember Matt Pinfield from like 120 Minutes and other MTV shows that didn't matter? He was like, he had this froggy voice and he was always psyched. I'm really psyched to be talking to. And then like it was a band that didn't matter, like Ash or something like that. I'm really psyched to be talking to the lead singer of Sponge or whatever. I hope that I don't come across as that guy because that guy was a clown. But I am genuinely excited to talk to Ray today. I'll get back more into who he is in a minute. I do want to talk about upcoming events here at DAAC. First of all, on Friday, November 20th, we have Music Series 10. And that's going to be down here in the Ruix basement. And that's going to feature Atala from Oshkosh, Wisconsin, Iowa City Doom Band Seath, who from past Ruix shows, and Sludge Burner from right here in Dubuque. That's going to be their debut show down here for us. Looking forward to that one. I'm also going to sit down and talk to Brian and Eric from Seath for an upcoming podcast episode as well. So that's good. Also, on the DAAC front, we've got the Dark Slide Skateboard Show, of course, coming up on November 28th. That is, a variety of artists designing their own skateboard decks, and that'll be hanging through November into December. I'm not entirely sure how long, but it'll be hanging for a while. But that reception will also feature live music from two Dubuque bands, Snuff Queen and Telekinetic Yeti, and The Micromantis featuring Tony Willis, who's one of the contributing artists, actually. And he's a Dubuque guy, but he lives in Denver, and the rest of his band's from Denver, too, I believe. And then another band, Garbageman, out of Milwaukee, I believe, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So that should be fun. November 28th, and that'll be suggested $5 to $10, something like that, donation at the door. And it'll start around 5 and go till whenever, probably like 10, 11 o'clock, something like that. Also upstairs in the DAAC studio is the resurrection of Readings Under the Influence, RUI. This is a new development. You might remember from a few episodes ago, me and Christina talking about it. We are going to be resurrecting that as a regular installment. It'll be 4 times a year as opposed to once a month like it used to be back in like 2006, 2007. But basically it's we'll have people volunteering to read something that they wrote and prepared, or something that they prepared that somebody else wrote that they really like. It's the rules are pretty loose. We'll have prepared guests and also live music and games and activities that have to do with writing and reading and stuff like that. I will be helping Christina and our other contributor, Ellen Goodman, sort of organize that. And the first one will be on December 12th. So look for that. That'll also be coinciding with the release of the next Ruix issue and also the art sale that's happening upstairs on the 12th and the 13th. Speaking of that Ruix zine, make sure you get your submissions in if you want to be part of this next issue, because that date is winding down. Submit your submissions to submitdaac@gmail.com. Now, like I said, my guest today is going to be Ray Harpo Hutchinson. He's a fixture of Dubuque, has been for decades now. He's a good friend of mine, and he's basically just an eccentric townie. He's a great guy to talk to about music, about sports. Baseball in particular is his favorite. And he's got tons of stories about growing up in Dubuque, and we wanted to have him down here because he's an important part of the history of this town. So we thought he would be a good addition to this show. So let's go and check in with Ray and see what he has to say. So Ray, thanks for coming down.
You betcha.
I wanna ask you first and foremost, because you basically grew up in Dubuque, right? Born and raised, or
no, I wasn't born.
No?
I was born in Oklahoma City. Lived a lot of my early life in Kansas.
okay,
But in 1966, we moved to Dubuque because my dad went to quit working with a city service oil company
okay.
because he wanted to become a minister.
Oh,
So he had to go to seminary school, and being I was brought up in the Presbyterian church, so he was Presbyterian, so he had to go to seminary school here in Dubuque.
oh.
Well, there was also one in Texas, but I'm glad he chose Dubuque. So,
Well, we are too.
But anyway, I moved here in '66, finished my last 2 years of high school here, was here for 4 years, and then left, went back to Kansas, went to college for 1 year in Clarksville, Arkansas, at the College of the Ozarks. It's now called the University of the Ozarks.
Okay.
And then came back to Dubuque in '71 on my own. So I've been here ever since.
Okay. Wow. So what was it like? How old were you in '66?
16.
16. Okay.
I'm 65 now.
Okay. So what was it like being a teenager in the '60s in Dubuque? I know we've talked about some of the shows you saw. Why don't you talk about that?
We had I think growing up in the '60s was cool. There's a lot of good music back then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still like a lot of that garage stuff and the blues and stuff.
Right.
And so, when the rock and roll bug bit me, it bit me really hard. But I'm glad it did.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad it did too.
Yeah.
I've had lots of conversations
I know.
over the years with you about rock and roll, but
I don't know, a lot of the rock and roll today I don't know, like Bob Seger says, they ain't got the same soul or something. But anyway,
yeah, I could see that.
I went to high school my last 2 years of high school here, and back then my favorite rock and roll band was Paulie Bear and the Raiders.
Okay.
And my first singing with the
It's a
band,
great band. I love that band.
First getting up on stage and singing with the band was in '67.
Mm-hmm.
67 or 8, when he was my last year in high school. And
you went to senior, right?
Yeah, I went to senior.
All right. Same with me.
And so there was a dance after a basketball game one night. I went to it. And I got up on stage, and I think it was the Natives at the time.
That was the band's
Yeah,
name?
there was a
Okay.
band called the Natives. Randy Wilcox, who later was in the Butterscotch Grove,
Okay.
was in the Natives. Well, I got up on stage and sang Louie Louie.
Nice.
And, people were throwing money at me and all that stuff like that.
No way, really?
Yeah, they were throwing nickels and dimes and pennies and stuff. Hey, what the hell?
And you're like 17, 18, something like that?
Yeah. And so the next Monday after that, I just got up there for fun to do it.
Yeah.
I had Wes Rook for I think it was sociology teacher. Well, he wasn't too social with me. He kicked me out of class so they could talk about me behind my back, for getting up and having a good time the Friday night before.
Really? What do you mean he was talking behind your back?
Oh, they sent me to the dean's office or something like that, and they probably discussed what I did that Friday night was taboo or something. They didn't, but a lot of people thought it was cool. They thought it was cool what I did, so they were on my side.
Yeah.
And so, he later got fired anyway. So
screw him.
yeah, right. He got fired for messing around with some of the young girl students up there. And that was a bad thing. So
Okay.
he got the axe. So, but anyway, I graduated in '68.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the hippie scene came along in '69.
Yeah.
And I was one of those Westminster church lawn sitters.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we had a good time up there. Now, I didn't get into the drugs and alcohol and that stuff,
Right.
but I got into the music.
You still don't really drink that much, do you?
No, I can't drink at all anymore.
No.
You see, I've always had to take medication for seizures.
Uh-huh.
And so I haven't really drank a whole lot in my life. There's a couple of times I've been drunk.
Okay.
Mainly back in the 70s when I was coming down here at the Brothers 3, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too, but yeah, we'll get to that.
And I still got some fluorescent bulbs that were colored that came out of these,
Like back
lights on
then?
the wall. Yeah, that were there. Yeah, they had red and blue ones.
Oh, awesome.
And I still got some blue Durotest 40 watts and some red ones. I think a couple of red ones came out of here too.
Mm-hmm.
They still work too, but they're staying where they're at.
Yeah.
And so, because colored fluorescents are hard to come by nowadays. And that's another thing. I collect fluorescent light bulbs.
Yep. Yeah, we're definitely going to get into that too.
And so, but anyway, I moved back to Dubuque in 71.
Mm-hmm.
And this building across the alley, which is now the Henry Stout Senior Apartments, was the Iowa Inn.
Yeah.
And it was a room and house for men. That meant only men stayed there. And what it was, before that, it was the YMCA. But in November of 70, Darlene and Bill Allendorf bought the building from the YMCA because they'd built their new place up on Blue Street.
Okay.
And so they got down here and moved up there. And, well, they just shut everything else down there pretty much, except they rented out the gym for basketball and once in a while maybe the weight room or something like that. But the game room was closed up and later turned into a bookstore.
Okay.
And then, but anyway, it was just a room and house. And so I moved in June 4th, 1971, and I lived at the Iowa Inn for 26 and a half years.
How old were you when you moved in?
21.
Okay.
So I lived there from 21 to 47.
Wow.
And so, but anyway, there was a bar right across the alley here, and this was called the Brothers 3.
Brothers 3, and that's where we're sitting right now.
That's
in
right.
The Ruix space.
This is the old Brothers 3 tavern.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a good time bar. It was a college bar. They had a couple pinball machines back here in the corner, which I loved.
Yeah.
And I saw a great rock concert down here back in the early 70s on TV. They had the Black and Purple concert, Black Sabbath and Deep Purple.
Oh, wow.
And so that was
You watched
good
it
time.
on the TV in the bar. They
Yeah,
didn't play down
They
there.
didn't play down here, but no, they had a TV back in this corner over here, hanging up from the ceiling and hanging down, and so the TV was hanging down. So I just stood there and watched the concert.
Yeah.
And I worked here too, And what I did was I changed the light bulbs and I picked up the glasses and bottles off the tables and set them on the bar.
Yeah.
I had a real easy job and all that sort of thing,
Yeah.
Fill the coolers with beer, And I could dry a glass of beer, but I couldn't make any other drinks,
Right.
Like
Basically being a bar back and occasionally pouring beers.
Yeah, but I
Okay.
could pour a glass of beer, but that's all I could do. I
Gotcha.
couldn't make any mixed drinks or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Dick Handelman and his brothers owned this place. That's why it was called the Brothers 3.
Okay.
And Dick later was, he went up to Fenimore, Wisconsin, because they got a real good cooking school up there, and he learned how to cook real good. I think he was a big head chef up at Loris there for quite a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but anyway, this was a good time bar.
Mm-hmm.
And things sometimes got rowdy in here, but, we had a big guy named Twig who was bouncer. And he's not with us anymore. He passed on a long time ago, but he kept things in pretty good order, and he was a good guy. He was you'd have liked him. He was a big Washington Redskins fan, too.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah, you'd like that.
Yeah, back then it was okay to be a Redskins fan.
Yeah, right. But I think he was also a Washington Senators fan, too, in baseball.
Oh,
So,
wow. Okay.
So I didn't know too many of them, but anyway, this was a good time bar, and they had a little food, like they had these sandwiches you had to heat up in the microwave or something like that, and maybe little pizzas or something like that.
Down here at the Brothers 3?
Yeah,
Okay.
and so
Standard bar food.
yeah, for the day,
Yeah,
for
sure.
that day. But they had these one kind of sandwiches called cube steak sandwiches, and they had onions on them, and they were real greasy, but
Yeah.
they were really good.
Okay.
But they were really greasy. And the parts that I went were just horrible. I remember one night I was home with the guy when a buddy of mine from Platteville named Bob,
Yeah.
he was staying there too. And I cut loose with one of my cube steak bars, and he goes, air, God, I need air. I can't breathe. I just stood there by the Coke machine and laughed my ass off.
Yeah, the cube steak farts.
Yeah, it was funny though. But anyway, this was a good time bar, but they had a barmaid here named Jan.
Jan?
Jan Bergfeld, I think was her name. But
Okay.
she was all right, but but she bitched a lot.
Okay.
Like one day, me and my buddy Bob and his brother Chuck, we were over in Washington Park just throwing the football around, playing catch, just have something to do one afternoon.
Sure.
And she wanted to go to the bank. She needed somebody down here to watch the bar.
Mm-hmm.
So she comes over to Washington Park. And she says, Harpo, you little son of a bitch, get your ass down to the bar right now. I need to go to the bank. All right. So one night I told her, I says, Jan, you got to be in the Guinness World Book of Records for bitching because nobody bitches more than you. Nobody does. But this was a pretty good place, and stuff like that. I had a lot of fun here. It was sad when they closed her up, but it's.
When was that about? Do you know?
I don't know if their licenses ran out, or sometimes the guys that go outside and they.
But I'm just curious if, because I moved here in about 87, 88, something like that. Was it here then?
No.
No.
This bar closed. This bar closed in July of '74.
Oh, okay. So like a decade before that.
Oh yeah, a long time before you got here.
So what was in here when I would have moved here? Do you know? Was there anything?
I think there was some kind of union or something like that in here for a little while.
Oh,
I don't know if it was the mail carriers union or something.
But you were still living across the alley.
Yeah, right. But I never got to come in here after the bar closed.
Yeah.
Okay. And although I did want some of those red fluorescents, I think I did get a couple of them. But anyway.
Well, that's good.
But anyway, it was a good. But sometimes people get drunk and go outside and take their beer glasses and throw them on top of the Granbilly across the street.
Oh yeah, a little rowdier than you usually.
Oh yeah, it got rowdy at times,
Yeah.
And I only really got really super drunk down here twice.
Okay.
Once on my 24th birthday, I got a call from Rick Russell, the Cubs pitcher at the time. I was a Cub fan at the time, not anymore. I'm a Dodger fan now.
I'm definitely going to talk to you about that too.
But anyway, I had a couple of shots of whiskey, which I'll never do again.
Mm-hmm.
God, this Jack Daniels is nasty tasting.
And Jack isn't very good.
So, and I had a couple of beers.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that got me was the angel food cake. When I ate that on top of the alcohol.
Oh, man, Ray.
God, I got sick. I got sick in the back room. I passed out. But when I woke up, I was fine. No problem,
Yeah, no hangover or anything?
Right, no hangover or nothing. But one night I was down here, and there wasn't hardly anybody here.
Okay.
It was a quiet night at the bar.
So you came in here pretty regularly.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I worked here, too, at times. So
right, that's right. Okay.
So that's why I got my drinks for nothing and stuff like that. But anyway, I had a cold. So I drank quite a few glasses of beer that night, And it was Schlitz. Back then, Schlitz was good beer.
Oh, yeah, Schlitz is great for a cold.
I don't know how it is now, but, but back then, of course, brewmasters are always changing that.
I'm not sure if there's
formula,
even Schlitz around here.
Well, I don't think there
in many places.
I don't know.
Probably East Dubuque stores have them.
Yeah, could. Yeah, you might go to Family Dollar or Family
Beer over there.
Beer and Liquor and see if they got it. But anyway, it used to be good, but they probably changed the, formula. And they do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
When a new brewmaster comes in.
Right.
But anyway, it was pretty good beer back then. And they had another beer down here that I liked a lot. It was called Olympia. It was made in Olympia, Washington. That was good, too.
Is it?
It was real light, but it was good. I liked it.
I sort of remember the name. I think I want to say maybe my dad drank it or something, but I don't know. I don't think I ever tried.
But anyway, I come out of here, and I was kind of drunk.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this guy named Bob Schuster, who's not with us anymore either. He worked at the packing house, and he'd go through the alleys all the time and digging through the dumpsters and stuff like that. And so he said, well, you better get up to the phone company. There's a box of fluorescents in the dumpster upstairs. You better go up there and get them. I said, okay. So I went up and got them, took them home, took them up to my room, leaned them up against the dresser, and went over to the bed and went right to sleep. So anyway, Schuster was something else, too.
Yeah.
Now, here's a guy who worked at the packing house. This is back in the 70s and early 80s. And he took me up to his house. He lived on West 5th Street. So I walked up to his house one night at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And he had this great big house, and there was only about that much walkway through the entire house.
Okay.
He had boxes of just nothing, junk and just papers and stuff that wasn't worth nothing,
Right.
piled all over the place. I said, Schuster, your house never catches fire, pal. It'll burn for 100 years. Unfortunately, he did die in a fire, but it wasn't there. But
Wow, that's a weird twist of fate.
but he was a hoarder. The guy had more stuff. I mean, it wasn't worth nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just piled high all over the place, just boxes of nothing. Used up envelopes and just nothing. I'll never understand why he had all that stuff. But anyway, we went up there to make some kind of a light bulb kind of a trade or something, because he had a few old fluorescents I wanted.
Yeah.
I think I still got a couple of them. But anyway, he told me to go up there, and one night I remember I was walking down an alley, and this is over on 10th and Central.
Yeah.
There used to be a drive-in over there called Jim's Drive-In, and it was like, they had hamburgers and hot dogs, just fast food restaurant. And so
This was on West 5th?
no, this is on West 10th, on 10th and Central.
I missed that. Okay.
I think there used to be a car lot over there. Now I don't know what it is. But anyway, he's in there, and they were all wrapped, but he unwrapped them, and he was eating hot dogs out of the dumpster. I thought, Schuster, look, I don't have any money at all. I'm broke most all the time. And yet, I managed to get meal tickets and go down to the 4th Street Cafe and eat lunch and stuff like that. I never eat out of a dumpster. Forget it.
Oh, my God.
Oh, they're all wrapped up. Okay.
Well, at least he had a justification.
Yeah, at least there was that. But,
Yeah. Well, Ray, I want to ask you real quick because you keep, you've made a reference to your bulbs a couple of times here. Before we get too into anything else, I want you to you have a very unique hobby. And obviously, a lot of people know you around town for this hobby.
Oh, yeah.
You collect light bulbs. And
That's
you have
right.
pretty much all your life, right?
All my life.
Okay.
I started playing with incandescent light bulbs, house bulbs, Christmas bulbs,
Yep.
bulbs out of cars and stuff like that back in 56, 57.
So how big is your collection now?
Oh, it's pretty big. I got a big stack of them stuck in the stored in the basement of Reality Check, and I got some 21 cases across the alley in Yvonne's art,
That's actually just upstairs.
Yeah, well, is it upstairs or it's crusty? Yeah, it is.
Or maybe it is. Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's up next door or something. Maybe it's over here.
So you have a collection, an extensive collection of light bulbs that you keep sort of sporadically around town in any place that is willing to accommodate your.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Plus, I got a bunch at home too.
What started the fascination with the light bulbs?
I was born with bad eyes. I was born 2 months early.
Okay.
And when we stuck me in an incubator, which is the right thing to do because I only weighed 2 pounds 5 ounces when I was born.
Oh wow. Okay.
And so because I was too much premature, and they stuck me in an incubator, right thing to do. Turned the oxygen on high, right thing to do.
Definitely.
But what they didn't know, and they didn't know this back then, they didn't find it out till about 3 years later, that after the baby's been in the incubator for a while, you got to turn that oxygen gradually back down some because otherwise it'll ruin the baby's eyes. Well, that's what happened to me.
Okay.
So I can't see out of my left eye. I never could.
I never knew that. Okay.
And
So that's what happened to the left eye.
yeah, and the right eye was okay. Okay, it
You're
wasn't
starting
great.
to lose it now, though, these days, right?
But well, you see, so I wore really thick glasses for probably 41 years.
Right.
But in 1994, I had a cataract in the right eye, and things were getting dim. So I had to go to Ohio, where my brother lives, to have the cataract taken out because I couldn't see out of my left eye, and I had to spend a couple of days with a patch over my right eye. So I was totally blind for a couple of days.
Gotcha.
But
And this would have been how long ago?
it was in 94.
94. Okay.
Well, on the 20th of September of this year, the lens that had stuck in fell down out of where it was in my eye, and it was rolling around in there loose.
Mhm.
Well, they had to take it out. So I had to go to Iowa City on the 28th of September and I had it taken out.
Oh, no.
And I had to spend the night in the hospital in Iowa City with a patch over my right eye, so I was totally blind for that day, too.
Right.
And then the next day I got to come home, but I couldn't see very good, but I could see good enough to get around, to walk, to go get something to eat.
Right.
or something like that. But that's about it. I couldn't ride my bike then or nothing like that. And those things have improved quite a bit. Things are still a little fuzzy.
Right.
I go see the doctor in about 5.5 weeks again, and then he's going to refer me to my regular eye doctor, Dr. Malberg, for maybe glasses again,
Okay.
So I don't think I really want any more surgeries for a while.
Yeah, I don't blame you there.
But anyway, I started collecting incandescents. So one day I was home. This is when we were living in Cheney, Kansas. We lived out in the country. Somebody gave me a 40-watt light bulb, and I screwed it into the socket, plugged it in the wall, and it made a little blue flash. So I tapped it like that, and it lit up. The filament wiggled back together, and it lit up. Oh, there's a trick. So I started doing that with all kinds of light bulbs.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'd get a great big flash, or a Christmas bulb would go pop, and it'd be totally done,
Right.
So in 1960, we were over. It's around Christmas time.
And this is still Kansas?
This is in Augusta, Kansas.
Okay.
And they had this. We went over to the minister's house that night for a church supper. It was a small town, 7,000 people. So, we all went down in the basement, had a nice big dinner. They had this big Christmas tree in the front room, lights all over it. Now, Christmas lights back then were all incandescent. There wasn't no LEDs or any of that, or even those little tiny itty-bitty ones like you got now.
Right.
They were all
None of
C7s or C9s, or the really old kind where if one went out on the string, they all went out on the string. You had to hunt the string to find a bad bulb.
Right.
Well, they had one string of those on the bubble lights in the bottom. Those. Well, I searched the whole tree for a burnout Christmas bulb and finally found one. But it was one of the early Japanese Christmas bulbs, C7, which is indoor, 7.5 watt. And I thumped it like that. It made a big flash, and all the lights in the whole tree except the bottom string went out.
Oh, wow.
I thought, uh-oh, this is not good. But nothing happened to me that time. It wasn't until the next year. That's what happened to me. It was after Christmas. We went to Dodge City, Kansas for a little vacation after Christmas.
Okay.
There was an old GE bulb that burned out on our Christmas tree, so I tossed it in my pocket with my nightlight socket, and off we went. We got to the motel room. We hadn't been there 10 minutes, and I decided to play with my light bulb.
Yeah.
Plugged it in, tapped it, made a big flash. All the lights on the whole floor went out. Plus, my nightlight socket broke in half. I thought, I got a spanking for that. Now people think it's funny. How come you didn't laugh back then?
Yeah, really.
But anyway, and it was about that time. Actually, it was in 4th grade I first discovered. I started looking up at the ceiling. Oh, those are interesting. Fluorescence.
About 4th grade?
Yeah.
Okay.
So one day, I'm in 4th grade, and I look up, and I see the gas, and this one fluorescence start going like that, spinning around a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's getting black at the ends. Oh, let's see what happens here. Well, it went out real quick, and it didn't flicker that long. But 2 years later, in 6th grade, now back then, your 8-foot fluorescent single pins, if you had a 2-lamp fixture, there was 2 sides. There was the power side and the weak side. Now, if the bulb was going out on the power side, it took the weak side bulb with it.
Mm-hmm.
Where if it was on the weak side, it got dim, just kind of got dim, and the other one stayed full brightness.
Gotcha.
Well, this was on the power side, and the gas was really spinning around, and it was turning different colors, and there was red and purple and all that in it.
Yeah.
This is really cool. I'm enjoying this. This is better than class. I had to stay in after school for watching that fluorescent light go out in the classroom instead of paying attention in class.
Yeah, I bet.
So what does the teacher do? He turns off the bankment of lights
Oh, man.
during class. And then he turns it back on when it's just me and him. And I start watching again. Get out of here. I'll have that changed tomorrow. Oh, okay. But then I started looking at fluorescence. From then on, I thought, wow, we got to see what's going on here. This is great. And, this is back in the days, when fluorescent light fixtures were really made good. especially your old 4-footers with the starters in them.
Right.
And there were there's 3 kinds of starters. There's the regular starter, there's the automatic reset starter, and there's the manual reset starter.
Okay.
Good luck in finding the manual and the auto reset anymore.
Pretty rare.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, everything's changed since then, but I still like the old stuff better. Because the ballasts will last a long time. The only bad thing about the old ballasts is when they go out, they start leaking tar all over the place.
Okay.
And what that tar did,
did,
it was PCBs and stuff. But the thing is, those fixtures lasted a really long time before they did go out. Where this modern stuff, if you get 5 years out of electronic ballast, you did good.
And you can probably tell way before they start leaking that they're going bad. You can replace them. You got enough time, right?
Well, no, not really, because the ballast is up inside the fixture, and you have to take the cover off and stuff like that and replace.
Okay, so often you'd get
it'd be
leaks inside the building.
But it just dropped down. It would just start leaking. You could smell it. One thing you could do is if the ballast started to go, you could smell it go, especially in the 8-footers. You could smell that tar.
Yeah.
And so you knew right away that you had a ballast going when you started smelling that tar.
Okay.
Although sometimes the ballast would go out in a real quiet way. I had my first 4-foot fluorescent light fixture I ever got back in the late 60s was the ballast went out in it. One day I just went down to the basement, turned on the light, and nothing. It was dead.
Gotcha.
But so it went real quiet. But I've seen them go in a lot of different ways. And
you know how to fix the ballast when they
you can't fix the ballast.
Oh,
you have to replace the ballast. You cannot fix the ballast.
Okay.
And so, see what that old stuff did back in the old days is they kept the coils in the ballast cool. Where nowadays, all these electronic ballasts, the ballasts are light as a feather, where the old ballasts were real heavy.
Okay.
Because they had all the PCBs in it. But they lasted a long time. This new stuff, boy, I tell you what.
Yeah.
It don't last
But you
at all.
collect the new ones too, right?
Oh, I mean, I don't have too many of the new fixtures, but I
What's the oldest light bulb you think you have?
I think I got a couple of old incandescents that were made in 1897.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
What do you mean you think? Like you think?
yeah, that's what the guy told me at the antique store I got it at.
Okay.
But a lot of my,
And they
I got
work?
a lot of, yeah.
Wow.
I got a bunch of bulbs and stuff from the 20s and 30s and 40s too. But that's fluorescents from the early 40s, but all incandescents from before. Because they didn't make fluorescents until 1939. That's when they came out on the market.
39?
Yeah. I think they started thinking about it back in 1925.
Yeah.
I think Nikola Tesla had something to do with it.
How so?
But it took a while. Huh?
What do you mean?
He was an inventor.
Right. Well, I know who he is, but
I think he started messing with, trying to invent the fluorescent light back in 25. But the thing is, when they made fluorescents, they had to come up with different kinds of ballasts, different kinds of starters for the different lengths. Like your short fluorescents, your 14, 15, and 20 watts all took the same kind of ballast, the same kind of starters.
right.
Then then you had the 25 watt, 30 watt, and the 30s and 40s were together,
Yeah.
Then they had these great big 90, 85, 90, and 100 watt fluorescents. They were 5 foot long. They were about that big around and had prongs on it like that and big starters in them.
Really?
I still have one fixture that I got stored in the basement of my place that takes those, and it works.
Really?
Yeah. But you can't find bulbs even for that anymore.
Oh, I bet.
But anyway, but there's all kinds of stuff that you can't find no more. But you see, I started collecting fluorescents in October of '69. And I was over at a friend's house. We were living up on the corner of O'Hagan and Pearl, and they lived a couple of houses up the street on Pearl. And they were remodeling their kitchen, and they had this old 2-foot 2-light fixture. One bulb was bad, one starter was bad, and the other bulb was good, but it wasn't very bright. It was because it was made back in the 50s, the bulb was.
Yeah.
So it lasted them a long time. So they're going to put one of those double circle line fluorescents in, the ring ones. I said, well, what are you going to do with this old fixture? Well, we're going to throw it away. I said, yeah, but it still works, don't it? He said, yeah. Well, I said, well, don't throw it away. Give it to me. I want it. I'm going to use it. What are you going to use it for? Well, you know what?
Never mind.
I've been interested in fluorescents for a while. I think I'm going to start collecting them. And I need light fixtures to test them on. So, because I'm going to go downtown and ask the stores to save me their old bulbs. And I'm sure I'll get some good ones out of the pile.
Yeah.
And which I have many, many times.
Mm-hmm.
People have given me brand new ones and all that too. But they thought were bad. But anyway, the old stuff is a lot better than the new stuff. Okay, yeah, the LED stuff's supposed to be energy saving and all that. And it's nice and it's getting brighter. And, but they're no fun to play with. Once those things are done, they're done.
Right.
There's no filament in there to fix or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like my fluorescents, when they're burning out, I put an electronic ballast fixture in it, and the gas spins around real fast, and at the end, sometimes it goes psss
Right.
when it dies.
Yeah, yeah.
And what it does is it blows the powder off the inside of where the black end is, and I call it shooting the powder. Fluorescent light bulb just shot the powder. And so,
Shot the powder.
Yeah. Well, I used to do that the old way. The old way, I used to cross one side against the other and use a bad starter and stuff like that. Get it to do it. It was a lot harder. I think it was harder in my picture to do it that way. But this way, it's easier. So, but anyway, I've started collecting fluorescents, and there's all kinds of stuff they don't make anymore. I've got all kinds of color variations you don't see anymore. Like nowadays, you got cool white, daylight deluxe. The 4 and 8 footers are daylight deluxe.
Mm-hmm.
They used to be just daylight, but now they're daylight deluxe. There's cool white is now called 4100K.
Yeah.
Chroma 50 or designer, whatever you want. It's 5000K. It's measured in Kelvin. 6500K is daylight. 3000K is warm white, and 2700K is like just white. Or I have a little Kenred that says 3500 white on it.
Really?
So, but back in the early days, there was two kinds of white. They had 3500 white and 4500 white. 4500 white was cool white. And so there was a couple companies that measured it in Kelvin even back then. But but this new stuff is, I don't know.
Not your thing?
It's just, it's not as like this. They don't last. One day I was out of Blaine's Farm and Fleet, the new one they got in Dubuque.
Yeah.
I looked up at the ceiling as I walked in the store, and they had some fluorescents on dimmers. Well, as far as I know, I don't think you're ever supposed to use fluorescents on dimmers because they weren't really originally made for that. Even though they've come up with ways to do it now.
Yeah.
All that's going to do is burn your bulb and your ballast out faster.
Okay.
That's all it's going to do.
So do you find yourself buying them as often, or like looking for them as often as you used to, or do you still?
Well,
do it just as
there are places that use all this modern stuff that don't even ask you to save their bulbs for me that much anymore.
Yeah.
And the reason I don't is because I know all the bulbs I get from them are going to be totally dead.
Right.
Because when a fluorescent light bulb dies in electronic ballast, it's totally dead.
Okay.
There's no flicker. There's nothing left.
Yeah.
She's done.
Okay.
And so I thought, well, geez,
So you don't take dead bulbs?
Well, I've taken dead bulbs. I do take dead bulbs if somebody has a pile, but I'll go through them.
Right.
But I can just tell, like there's bulbs, and I just look at them, and I'll just put them in the dead box right away. I got some today from O'Toole's. They were modern, cool white fluorescents.
You have a dead box?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And I get 3 or 4 dead boxes full of dead ones. I take them out to the landfill and, get them recycled.
Okay. Gotcha. But what about do you still hit up the thrift stores and the antique stores looking for old ones still?
Oh, yeah.
You do?
Yeah, I'm still doing that. I don't find much at St. Benny's anymore.
Yeah.
Especially the one up here on Iowa Street. They don't have anything like that anymore.
Well, when's the last time you found something that you were like, wow, I haven't seen one of these in a long time?
I found a 15-watt 4500 white Sylvania and a desk lamp out at St. Benny's on the West End a couple months ago.
Really? But you placed it how old?
Probably late 40s.
Really?
So, yeah.
Wow, that's really cool.
And the bulb, it lights up dim when you first turn it on, but after it warms up a while, because it's a really old bulb,
Yeah.
it's all right. But it's an old 15-watt 4500 white. That's what it says on it.
Yeah.
And it's made by Sylvania.
Right.
And of course, and it had black end caps on it. Back in the days, early days, Sylvania had black end caps. Westinghouse always had black end caps for the most part. I've got some that have black end caps by Champion, Lustra, Amplex. Well, Sears was Harmony House. Westinghouse made fluorescents for Sears.
Right.
Back in the early days, and then Sylvania made them for Montgomery Ward.
Do you have like a favorite brand?
Oh, I love Sunray fluorescents.
Sunray?
Sunray is great fluorescent. They don't make fluorescents anymore either. And I've got a picture on my phone of Sunray Aqualight fluorescent. I got it in 3 different colors in Sunray. I got an Aqualight, Crystalite, and Colorite Deluxe.
Wow.
And they all work.
Awesome. How old are those?
Probably 60s.
60s?
Early 60s, late 50s maybe.
Okay.
But
you think that's like the most durable brand, or just like
well, you see, one of your favorites? It's one of my favorites. Back in the day, you don't see this anymore, but there's still some salesmen that go around selling light bulbs.
Right.
You don't see as many as I got a friend who does it, and he saves his old bulbs. He works for Superior Lighting.
From Dubuque?
Well, he lives in Hazel Green.
Oh, okay.
But he sells Superior light bulbs. And like I had a friend back in the 80s that used to work for Duratest. But you don't see Duratest much anymore either.
Mm-hmm.
And there was Sunray, Lustra. Those are some of the companies rather that he's traveling salesman.
Right.
Then there were like offshoots like Kentucky Radio. There was a company called Kentucky Radio, but they call their light bulbs Kenrad.
Kenrad?
Yeah, Kenrad, Kenrad. And so I've got some of those.
Okay.
But they were mainly built by Westinghouse, like a Westinghouse.
Yeah.
And then there's Champion, GE. I got some 3-footers made by GE for Champion in 1942.
Yeah.
I got them in Independence. Let's see I got some Kenrad gold ones up in Marquette at a combination antique hardware store. Okay. And they've never been used before.
Wow.
But, back in the 40s and before, there were light bulbs made by GE and Westinghouse called Mazda GE and Mazda Westinghouse.
Mazda, like the car company?
Yeah, MAZDA.
Wow.
And in fact, I got a picture of a 20-watt white Mazda GE fluorescent on my phone. I can show it to you.
Yeah.
In fact, when I was out at the dump and found one laying out there, it was an old Mazda GE 20-watt white. And it still worked, too, so I took it home.
Oh, but, yeah, of course.
Anyway, plus there were other companies like Westron. I never got too many of those here in Dubuque. Right. I got some of those when I was going to college. But I remember in college, I went to the College of the Ozarks school year 70, 71. And they called me into the dean's office in April of 71. Mr. Hutchinson, we would like to talk to you. Okay. What do you want to talk about? Well, let's talk about you coming up. We've seen you coming up College Hill many times with armloads of fluorescent light bulbs. What's going on? I said, well, that's my hobby. I collect fluorescent light bulbs. I said, you should be glad I do. Well, why should we be glad you do? I said, because 2 reasons. One, a lot of the ones I get from downtown still work and can use them in the dorm. Now, the lighting in the dorm, in each one of the dorm rooms, was divided into 3 rooms. You had the 2 little side rooms, and you had the big middle room. Well, the big middle room had an 8-foot 2-light fluorescent light fixture in it, 8-footer, with single pin.
Yeah.
And one night, this kid, this is in November of 70, come down to my room, there's something wrong with my light. So I grabbed the ladder and he said, I think the shade's starting to melt or something. So I grabbed the ladder and I ran down to his room. Took the shade off, looked up at that light. One bulb was lit, one bulb was not. And the bulb that was lit was at full brightness. And the bulb that was not was still a good bulb, but it wasn't lit at all. So I took both bulbs out of that fixture and says, I got bad news for you, pal. Real bad news. What's that? I said, the ballast is going out in your fixture. It's going to set your ceiling on fire if you keep using it. And I can't let that happen. You got to use your pole lamp over there for your lighting. Right. I said, I'll report this. I said, I've reported this 3 or 4 times. You ain't done nothing about it. Mr. Hutchinson, you go ahead and do whatever you want. I said, thank you, I will. And I was around when they changed the ballast. Well, first of all, the ballast, the inside of that cover of that light fixture was covered with tar. I mean,
Really?
it really leaked a lot of it out.
Is it like a pain in the ass to change a ballast too?
It can be, yeah, because those, especially those other times, you unscrew the screws and take this thing down and hook the wires from,
Right.
from where they went, You got to be able to read the diagram on the ballast and stuff to get it wired up right.
Right.
Because it goes to the end sockets. See, those goes to the end sockets or the old fixtures with the starters and stuff like that. Some of them can be complicated.
Yeah.
But now you don't have the screws in these new electronic ballast fixtures. They got these end sockets that just, the wire just goes right in. They got a little hole. You just stick the wire right in the hole.
Yeah.
And so, well, that's all right. But anyway, they put the wrong ballast in the first part, and that's why the light didn't hardly work.
Mm-hmm.
Because they put it for 2 lamps F48 T12 slimline ballast in instead of for an F72 for 2 F72 or F96 T12 slimline single pin fluorescence.
It
Which
sounds
is
like
what-
that's a mistake. It doesn't mean anything to me, but
Well, 6 foot, 8 foot,
okay.
72 inches is
Oh,
6
so
foot.
they have the size.
72 is 6 foot, 96 is 8 foot, 48 is 4 foot.
Okay.
Plus, plus they've had fluorescents at some really odd lengths. I've seen some fluorescent bulbs that were high output, and they're a bit different. They work good in cold weather,
Mm-hmm.
where some of the other fluorescents won't work very good and be very bright in cold weather.
Okay.
Even the compact screw-in compact fluorescents get dim if they're outside in cold weather.
Right.
But they have this cold temperature, ballasts that these high output bulbs, that's why they use them in freezers and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and coolers and places where it's cold.
Yeah.
But anyway, I've seen ballasts go out all kinds of ways,
Yeah.
I've seen them, as soon as you turn the light on, it blow the fuse or throw the breaker.
Yeah.
That was an 8 foot one. That was down at the Cornerstone back in the 72.
Yeah. You seem to be good at noticing when they're gonna go out too, because I know like when you walk out to CDs for change and you're like looking up at the bulbs.
Well, I was looking at your lights out at CDs for change, and there's one light that all the lights are out. Either all 4 bulbs are bad or the ballast is shot.
I know.
And
I feel kind of embarrassed when you walk in the store and like one of the lights are completely out because I don't know what I'm talking about. But
Well, here's what I could come out there and get up there and change bulbs and find out what's wrong.
sure.
I couldn't change your ballast. You have to have, the manager or the owner do that. But I could get up there and tell you what's wrong,
Yeah.
and I'll be happy to do that. But the thing is, with the kind of fixtures you got at CDs for change, there's one ballast for all 4 lights.
Okay.
And if that ballast goes, all 4 lights
All
are
4,
dead.
Yeah. That's okay.
Where
Makes sense.
back in the old days, you had your 4 light fixtures.
And each light got its own
And
ballast.
no, each light there were 2 ballasts. 2 ballasts in the fixture. Each one took care of 2 lights.
Okay.
Some would take care of the 2 outside ones. Some would take the 2. It depends on how it was wired.
Right.
2 outside ones went together. 2 middle ones went together. The ones on the left went together. The ones on the right went together. But anyway, I've got this old fluorescent light fixture that's got 2 ballasts in it.
Mhm.
It's an old starter fixture, and it's leaking tar. I don't
really?
use it, but it still works.
Yeah.
But I'll never use it.
Yeah.
Although I think I did
you
light
know
it
at
up for
least.
I did think I did light it up for a short time because we're working on a new light bulb movie, me and Tom Vandermellen.
Yeah. I want
But-
to ask you about that too. So like you've
But,
been doing. Oh yeah. You go ahead and finish first.
But these drop ceiling fluorescent light fixtures nowadays, one ballast for 3 and 4 lights. Well, those don't last very long.
Right.
I think your ballasts for 2 lights are better than the ones for the 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
Because even in the old days, every fluorescent light fixture had a ballast for 2 lights.
Yeah.
Except for some of your shorter ones or something like that, like your 2 footers, your 18 inches, there were 2 single ballasts in there.
Right.
But I got this one old fixture I just told you about. It's got 2 ballasts for each to take care of 3 lights, but it's a really old starter. Good luck in finding a new ballast for that.
Is that right?
There's all kinds of stuff they don't make anymore.
Yeah. I bet.
It's just unbelievable how the world nowadays is. It's just, I don't know, all your cars look a lot alike.
Mhm.
It just seems like, and these places that remodel to make things look old, you don't look old. Come on.
Like where?
Okay,
Yeah,
To
give me an
show you what
example.
I'm talking about.
Please.
You go into Brightbox store up here on next to the Aragon.
Yeah, of course.
He's got the same old fluorescent light fixtures up there, but he put new balances in that take the T8s.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't look old. That's not old. You got to have old 40-watt T12 fit bulbs in there with the starters if you're going to have it look old. You can't put a new ballast in there and tell me that looks old.
Yeah, but he might be fooling like the average, the average
Yeah, the
observer.
average kid. Most people don't care. But you know,
Or that they don't know the difference.
they don't that
more
too.
accurately, But okay, so this hobby of yours has lasted like your whole life, like you said.
Yeah, and it will continue so.
Yeah, exactly. So much so to the point where you mentioned your friend Tom Vandermellen.
Yeah.
And he made a documentary film about you, right?
Yeah, back in '96, he came down. You want to open that up?
Sure.
Back in '96, he came down the Iowa end because he'd heard about me,
Uh-huh.
and he wanted to do a story on me. So
So this is when you first met him?
yeah,
Back in 96?
'96, yeah.
Okay.
So we started doing some shooting. And I had all my stuff stored down in the basement of the Iowa end,
I'm not very
down
good
the
with movies either.
handball court.
Uh-huh.
Get the pocket knives, the scissors out, and so or
I'm
something.
determined. There
But anyway,
you go, sir.
so we shot. It took up to 2002,
Mm-hmm.
but we made it.
Yeah, I finally saw it.
Yeah.
I guess it would have been last year at the
Yeah.
film festival.
Yeah, it was it was in 2014 at the film festival.
Right.
We didn't show it this year, but last year we did.
What's
But
it
we're
called
working
again?
on just light bulbs.
Light bulbs. Okay.
But we're working on a new one, and I got this one fluorescent light fixture my friend from Platteville gave me.
Uh-huh.
I've never seen anything like it before.
What do you mean?
It came out of his old showcase. It's a 3-foot fixture. Takes a 3-foot bulb.
Mhm.
Then you got the wire. Then you got the ballast.
Make sure you're right up on the mic, right?
You got the wire. Then you got the ballast.
Okay.
And it's the only fluorescent light fixture I have ever seen in my entire life
Mhm.
that had the starter socket built right into the ballast. I've never seen that before.
Never seen it, really.
No. And it's a really old fixture.
Uh-huh.
And the wires are pretty frayed on it. So I'll never use it. But although I did light it up for the movie, you know.
Yeah, I remember that. I didn't know that you'd never seen
I mean,
it.
I did light it for the new movie. It's not in the old movie. It's in the. It'll be in the new one.
I thought you were talking about the one from the
Yeah. No, I got some.
old movie.
The old movie, I got some old light pictures in.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were talking about. Okay, so what's the new movie going to be called?
I'm not sure yet.
No title.
I'll
yet?
let you know. Tom's working on that one, I guess.
Okay, cool. When do you have an idea of when we're going to be able to see it?
Hopefully not by next year.
Cool. That'd be great.
So there you go. But I remember one night I was down at the. Remember when the Busted Lift had a restaurant upstairs? I mean, it still does, but you know, back when 180 Main Street had,
Yep.
Tommy had the restaurant.
Yeah, I remember that.
There was one kid that was working down there. He had red hair. I can't remember. I think his name was Jamie.
Jamie. I don't remember him.
But there was a red-haired kid that worked there.
Okay.
He brought me an old light fixture, a circular 32-watt fluorescent light fixture. It takes a 32-watt circular. And I've been looking for one that had a starter in it. Oh, yeah, that's what I've been always wanting anyway.
Uh-huh.
And it sits on my radiator at home. I don't ever use it, but I don't want to ever burn the ballast down in it.
Right.
But it sits there. And the only reason they come up with all this new stuff, because the electric companies keep raising your electric bill all the time, so they got to come up with something new so you go out and buy it to keep your electric bill low.
Yeah.
But that's what it really is.
Which makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
That's
know
the light
anybody,
bulbs.
just out of curiosity, do you know anybody else, like personally, that shares in your hobby? Or have you ever met anybody?
Not like I do.
No?
There's this one guy that lives out in Washington. He comes to Dubuque every once in a while.
Okay.
I met him over at Monk's. I took him over at my house one time and showed him some stuff, showed him a bunch of stuff that I had. And he was interested in lighting, but he's like into this new LED stuff.
Okay.
I showed him all the cool old stuff, some of the cool old stuff I had.
Yeah.
He was impressed.
Nice. That's about it, though?
Yeah.
About the only guy that you know that
Yeah,
sort
there's
of
no.
collects?
Well, Kenny used to collect Christmas bulbs back in the day, you know, when he lived downtown. But
Kenny then?
yeah, but I got his.
You
I
probably
got
got him into that, though, right?
No, he was already into it. But I got all these old GEs and give him all the Chinese modern ones.
Oh, cool.
He didn't give a shit.
Yeah, he doesn't care. How's he doing, by the way? Do you talk to him pretty often?
Actually, it's been quite a while since I've seen or heard from him.
Same here.
I think they've got him pretty numbed up, as far as in the nursing home, because, when he don't get his way, he throws a tantrum.
Yeah.
They said, we'll fix you.
Right, of course. Well, I just thought I'd ask. I hope he's doing all right.
Yeah, I hope so, too.
Well, let's shift gears here a little bit, Ray. I want to talk a little bit more about what you went to senior.
Yeah.
In the back in the day. I want to talk about some of the shows that you saw in Dubuque, but I also want to know a little bit. Do you remember much about your life, before you moved to Dubuque?
Yeah, some of it.
Yeah?
Especially the Augusta, Kansas part.
So you lived in Oklahoma and Kansas.
Well, I was born in Oklahoma, but I don't remember that. Although I had relatives, we went back and went and saw every once in a while. And every 2 years, I go back and see this eye specialist they had in Oklahoma City.
You still go to see them?
No.
Oh, I thought you said every once in a while you still did.
But back then, when I lived in Kansas.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But the thing is, I was born in Oklahoma City. Then we moved to Lindsay, Oklahoma. Hardly remember that. Mm-hmm. I was only there for a year or so. I was still a real little kid.
Right.
And then we moved to Madison, Kansas, and I remember that somewhat. But still, I didn't go to school until first grade. Mm-hmm. And that was in Cheney, Kansas, and we lived out in the country.
Right.
So I don't remember first and second grade very well. But third grade, that's when I started remembering stuff. Okay. And when we moved to Augusta in 58.
Yeah.
That's when I started remembering stuff, because we lived we lived on East 13th Street for a little while. Then we moved. We built our house on the corner of State and I think Meadow Lake Drive or something like that. And there was a ballpark, kitty corner from the back of our house. You can go across the field, and there was the local, amateur baseballs.
Yeah.
Park.
Is that when the love affair with baseball started?
I got to be a baseball fan, in 1960. I was first a Yankee fan, then I moved up here, and when I moved up here, I got to see the Cubs a lot, so I started rooting for them, and then in 1980, I said goodbye to the Cubs forever.
All right, well, yeah, I'm going to get back to that. So you've jumped around a bunch.
I went to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and that's where I'm staying.
Yeah, all right. I know you played baseball too, right?
Oh, I played like church league softball and backyard stuff, but...
I remember the Busted Lift had this little baseball card of you. How did that happen?
Well, in 1974, 5 and 6, Dubuque had a baseball team. In 4 and 5, it was 74 and 5. It was
Dubuque
a co-op.
Cubs, wasn't it?
Dubuque Packers.
Oh, Dubuque Packers. That's right. Mm-hmm.
And in 76, we were the single-A farm team of the Houston Astros.
Yeah.
And I got to know a bunch of the players, like Bruce Bochy, the manager of the San Francisco Giants. He's a good friend of mine. Yeah. I took him down the I-1 at the time and showed him my light bulb collection as it was then. He thought it was cool.
Right.
I used to play catch with him on the field before the games. I threw in my sidearm sinker and all that. And I got to be good friends with a lot of the players and even the manager. So one night we were down at the ballpark. It was 0-0. We're playing, I think, Wisconsin Rapids or something. It's the bottom of the ninth inning. We had the bases loaded. The winning run's at third. So I stick my head over the fence and into the dugout, and I says, "Hey, Cluck," Bob Cluck was the manager, "send up Pisker, and we'll win the game." She sent Pisker up to pinch hit. He had a grand slam homer.
Oh, wow.
Then he says, "What are you trying to do, take my job?" He was a good guy. That was fun. I'm glad we had a team, and it's too bad it went away.
Yeah.
I'd trade both our casinos in for a baseball team again.
So why? I want you to tell the story. Why did you? Why in 1980 did you decide the Chicago Cubs are no longer for you?
That's right. All right, I was a Cub fan.
Basically, I want you to start
years.
talking shit about the Cubs because a lot of Cubs fans listen to this show.
Oh, good. So get ready, to Cub fans, to hear about the Cubs. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
See, I was a Cub fan for 13 years. I was a Yankee fan. I was a little kid. Met Mickey Mantle in 61 in Kansas, in Joplin, Missouri, because the Yankees were in to play the Kansas City A's. So he owned a Howard Johnson's motel in Joplin, and we were on vacation, so we happened to be lucky. He happened to be there at the time, and so we got to meet him, and my brother has the autographed baseball. Anyway, when I moved to Dubuque in 66, the Yankees were getting bad, and they weren't very good anymore, and Mickey Mantle was about ready to retire. And the Cubs, you could listen to their games all the time, or watch them on TV or whatever,
Right.
Well, I was interested in them, and things started to fall apart in 79. And the reason I started falling apart in 79 was they had a manager who I had a lot of respect for. His name was Herman Franks. And before he managed the Cubs, he managed the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah.
Well, the Cubs had a guy named Bobby Mercer who was an outfielder. He played for the Yankees for many years. Well, he got traded away for nothing. I mean, I think they got a minor league pitcher for him that made one appearance in the majors, and that was it.
Yeah.
And several of the players, and Herman Franks wasn't too happy with Bob Kennedy, not the politician, but or any relation of them, but
Right.
Bob Kennedy was the general manager, and Bill Wrigley, whose father, Phil, had owned the team before he passed away and passed it down to his son.
Yeah.
But I don't think his son was into baseball like his dad was. And see, another thing is a lot of owners back then didn't like is in 76 was the first year of free agency where ball players could play out their options and go sign with whoever wanted to pay them the most.
Yeah.
But anyway, they traded Bobby Mercer. Several of the players and Herman Franks went into the front office and said, look, I'm down here trying to win a pennant, and I don't mind you making trades, but get something for them. They said, well, your job is to manage the team on the field. We'll make the trades as we see fit. Well, I didn't like hearing that. And so later that summer, Herman Franks stepped down as manager of the Cubs. And they brought in Preston Gomez to manage, and he wasn't a very good manager. So in 1980, the Cubs had a great relief pitcher. They had him in the late 70s, too. His name was Bruce Suter. This guy had this split-fingered fastball, and he got a lot of people out with it. He was really good and a great relief pitcher.
Okay.
Well, he won a one-year contract in arbitration for $700,000. One-year contract. And Wrigley went nuts. He said, that's it. I'm not spending any money. I'm trading all my good players away. I said, lose is one thing, but when you don't give a shit, that's another. I'm out of here. And I'd already become friends with Rick Mundy and Tommy Lasorda of the L.A. Dodgers.
Yeah.
And I even stayed a Cub fan in 77 on January 11th. The Dodgers got Rick Mundy from the Cubs for Ivan DeJesus and Bill Buckner. So they traded my favorite ball player to the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And Rick Mundy's still my favorite all-time ball player. And we're still good. And we were still good friends, too. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
And so...
So you followed Mundy.
Yeah. So I said, the heck with the Cubs. I'm going to the Dodgers. Went up to Zintner Sporting Goods over here and bought myself a Dodger hat and got rid of my Cubs stuff, threw it away, and said, I'm out of here. These guys don't want to win. And then in 83, the Cubs went out and got Harry Carey as announcer.
Yeah.
Now, Harry Carey started his career as an announcer with the St. Louis Cardinals. And he announced for them for quite a few years. But he was fired by the Cardinals in the late 60s, I think, because he was running around with August A. Bush, who owned the Cardinals, 17-year-old niece. Well, that didn't sit well with old Augie Bush. So he lost his job. And then, well, in the 70s, he got hired by the White Sox as an announcer. And Harry was so drunk half the time, he didn't know he could almost fell out of the booth a few times. And then they had Jimmy Pearsall, who played in the 50s, he was an outfielder for the Red Sox. And he was a really good defensive center fielder. In fact, they made a movie called Fear Strikes Out, which I've seen. It's a good movie. But he had to take psychiatric medication. You see, I think Jimmy Pearsall's dad wanted him to be a ball player, and Jimmy became one, but his heart wasn't in it like his dad wanted it to be. But anyway, one day, Jimmy Pearsall, told Harry Carey, come on, Harry, you've been drinking. You're drinking too much. Go take your psychiatric medication or something. They got into it, and so... Well, anyway, in 83, Jack Brickhouse, who had been a long-time TV broadcaster for the Cubs, a lot of people used to call him Jack Shithouse, all the Cub haters out there did. And so they hired Harry Carey. And the thing that irks me to this day about the Cubs, and it really isn't right, and if you're truly a Cub fan, Cub fans, listen to what I'm telling you.
Listen to
They
Ray.
make a bigger deal out of Harry Carey than any of their Hall of Fame ball players. They have more statues of Harry Carey. I think they have like one statue of each of their Hall of Fame players and two of Harry Carey. Now, what does that tell you? That's not good. But yet, a lot of Cub fans would pee their pants if they ever got rid of the statues of Harry Carey. And yet you have Ernie Banks, Fergie Jenkins, Ron Santo, Billy Williams, And Coach Greg Maddox, who's in the Hall of Fame, I think he kind of went in as a Atlanta Brave. And I think Bruce Sutter went in as a Hall of Fame as a St. Louis Cardinal, but they both played for the Cubs. So, you have
more
these,
emphasis on Carey, basically.
Yeah.
What you're saying.
They seem like they put more emphasis on Harry Carey than any of their Hall of Fame ball players.
So the bottom line is you
And
became a
that's-
Dodger fan in 1980.
Yeah.
And it solidified your decision in 1983 when they did this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I got you.
And so,
So what does Cubs stand for? Like, I always love this joke that you always told me. Why don't you tell me what that stands for?
well, completely useless by September and can't understand baseball strategy.
Oh, I never heard that one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Can't understand baseball strategy.
So the Cubs made the playoffs a few times.
Yeah.
And this is one thing I'll never understand. And this is before I was born. The last time, as you all know, the Cubs made the World Series was 1945.
Mm-hmm.
And during the regular season that year,
Yeah.
there was a Chicago bar owner who had a pet billy goat named Murphy. And they used to let him bring him into the ballpark, which was dumb. I don't know why they ever did that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the Cubs made it to the World Series and lost to the Detroit Tigers in 7 games that year. But they wouldn't let him bring his goat in the World Series, so he put a curse on him. It's called the Curse of the Billy Goat.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
And the thing is, in 1969, when the Mets overtook the Cubs and won the World Series that year, the Mets had an announcer named Bob Murphy.
Yeah.
In 1984, when the Cubs didn't have lights in Wrigley Field and made the playoffs, and the last 3 games of the playoffs after the Cubs won the first 2 at Wrigley had to be played in San Diego because they didn't have lights in Wrigley for television because they wanted the games at night. They played at Jack Murphy Stadium.
Right.
There's a bar right across the street from Wrigley Field called Murphy's Bleachers. This year, when the Cubs played the Mets, they had a second baseman by the name of Daniel Murphy, who set a playoff record for hitting 6 home runs in 6 consecutive games during the playoffs.
The dude is a monster.
But he's not a very good fielder. And as you saw in the World Series. But the thing is, the Cubs have a good young team. And they will be tough for quite a few years to come. I'm pretty sure they will be. Theo's done a pretty good job. He's done better than I thought he'd do.
Well, my hope is that at the very least it'll get people, because I'm a Red Sox fan, you know that.
Yeah, I know that.
And that they played a terrible season, but that's not my point. My point is, like, most people around here, with the exception of you, Rory, who's a Mets fan.
Yeah.
By the way, how did you feel when the Dodgers got creamed by the?
I didn't like it, but the thing is, we beat ourselves in a way, and we did.
But I'm hoping that, like, this young team, like you said, with the Cubs, will just continue to be good, because it's aggravating when, like I'm trying to enjoy, say, the Red Sox, who may be doing well obviously this season wasn't the case, but, like, and, like, all my Cubs fan friends, which is most of my baseball fan friends, have tuned out by July because, the Cubs are always terrible. Which,
that's because they don't have any pitching until now.
Fair enough. I just wanted to ask you about that. Especially, I wanted to know how long you played. But I also want to know. I know you saw a bunch of shows here in Dubuque, like shows that I can't even imagine coming here nowadays. Like, didn't you see Black Sabbath at, like, senior high or something?
No, I missed that concert, and the reason I missed it because we just moved back to Kansas when they came. They came here in August of '70. I'd moved back in July of '70.
Can you imagine seeing Black Sabbath in 1970? I went to senior too. I can picture that gym, and I can't picture Ozzy, or any of those boys in that fucking.
Back in the late '60s, and even early '70s, I saw Bob Seger, the Vanilla Fudge, and I saw Alice Cooper up there. He played at senior, but the thing is, Alice Cooper
at senior.
Yeah, Alice Cooper played at senior, but you know what? Nobody had heard of him yet. He was a nobody at the time.
Yeah, 68. That would have been easy action, right?
Yeah, but still, he didn't get any radio play or nothing like that.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like that was like still on Zappa's label, like the straight label.
He was founded by Zappa. Gave him a start,
right?
And
So yeah, nobody would have known who he was then.
Yeah,
he wouldn't even have been in makeup yet. That was the name of the band. Is
yeah, and he was in a band before that called The Spider.
the Spiders? Yeah.
The Spiders, yeah. I heard a song. I think I got a song somewhere at home on some compilation.
Pretty cool
by
garage rock. I
Yeah.
like the Alice Cooper band stuff better, but
Yeah, so did I. Especially, I'll tell you what, Love It to Death and Killers were two awesome albums. I don't care
with
what
you,
anybody
buddy.
says. Yeah, I mean, those are great albums.
Love It to Death is still my favorite to this day.
Oh, that is an awesome album.
So good.
That is a great album. But, I mean, they had other bands up there. I saw Black Oak, Arkansas. And
They just played at A&L not too long ago.
Black Oak, Arkansas did?
Yeah, they
Nobody
did.
told me.
Yeah,
I'd have gone down.
I was going to go down to it and I missed it somehow.
No, if I'd have known, I'd have gone down and seen them.
They still do occasional jaunts around the Midwest. I don't know how the guy in charge of booking at A&L got in touch with them. He doesn't.
Yeah, but A&L's now called.
The venue.
venue.
Yeah, this was before they changed the name.
Do they still have music down there?
If you want to call it that, I wouldn't say it's music.
Okay, they don't have any bands hardly playing it anymore.
No, they have bands. It's just
Not
they're
very good ones.
Pretty terrible. Yeah.
Well,
across
that's
the
not
board.
good.
Yeah, I know. I hate to talk shit, but actually, I love talking shit. You know that.
But I mean, I grew up in the '60s. I grew up in rock. When the rock and roll. One night, I was laying on my bed in Augusta, Kansas. It's late in '65.
Mm-hmm.
I was bored. I just couldn't get into college basketball or anything like that or anything else that was on the radio. So I had this little table model radio. I was cruising up and down the dial. And at night, you could get out of town stations. So I ran on to WLS.
Oh, I think you told me about this show.
Oh, and they were playing. They had the Ron Riley show on, and they were playing, songs like "California Dreamin' and "Kicks" and good stuff by the Yardbirds and people like that. Back in '60, whatever was hot in '65,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought, now this is the first kind of music that I could say I really liked, because I was never into music at all before. Because anything I'd heard,
What were you exposed to before that?
Well, I was mainly exposed to, like whatever my parents listened to, and that was boring. Lawrence Welk didn't do anything for me.
Oh, I hear you.
And, and it just wasn't in the country. I didn't mind. There was a couple country songs that weren't bad, but like Big Bad John, but Johnny Cash. But otherwise, there was a lot of other, stuff that I'd heard that just, I don't know. I hadn't heard rock. But it actually started in '64 when I first heard I Want to Hold Your Hand. And we sang it in German class in Augusta, Kansas. We learned it. Well, I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And of course, when I was in 10th grade, I flunked German class. I had a different teacher. She hated the boys and liked the girls. Oh, no. But anyway.
So you were listening to this WLS?
LS, and it was rock and roll radio. And so I started, this is. So I started, and in the daytime, they had a station in Wichita, Kansas that came in good called KLEO, and they did the same thing. So that was it. Boy, the bug bit me.
That was the beginning of the love affair with rock and roll.
Oh, yeah. I remember the first album, the first 45 I ever bought was Hungry by Paul Revere and the Raiders.
Oh, it's a great song.
And the first album I ever bought was Just Like Us by Paul Revere and the Raiders.
Great record,
And
too.
in June '66 in Wichita, Kansas at the Cotillion Ballroom, got to see the Raiders in concert. That was
Did you
my
really?
First concert, yeah.
In '66?
Yeah. I was 16 years old.
Man. I saw the Raiders with Mark Lindsay maybe in 2007, and it wasn't anywhere near as what it would have been back in '66.
No, that's true.
But it was still cool. They played a lot of the classics. But anyway.
But then I started, and then one night I was laying in my on my bed with my transistor radio here in Dubuque.
Yeah.
And I pulled in KAAY.
KAAY?
That's out of Little Rock, Arkansas. They called it the Mighty 1090.
And you were able to pick that up from here?
Yeah, late at night you could do that because it was a 50,000 watt station.
Okay.
And you had all kinds of 50,000 watt stations all over the country back then. And you could pick up most any place in the country.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Okay.
And so
I think this is the station you told me about. But go on. They've got it archived on the internet now, right?
yeah, it's called They had a show with this guy named Clyde Clifford. And it was called Beaker Street.
Bleecker Street, yeah.
And they
Gotta
played
check
all
that
this. They played all this stuff that you never heard on a regular radio station, like the early Pink Floyd stuff, Frank Zappa, songs that were really long, like "In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida" by Iron Butterfly,
Right.
or the 22-minute version of "Whippin' Post" from Live by the Allman Brothers from Live at the Fillmore East.
Matchstick Matchstick Men, Status Quo, probably.
That made top 40 radio. I heard that on the regular radio quite a bit. Pictures of Matchstick Men, which is
Maybe
a
that's
great
not the song I'm thinking of. What's the long song by Status Quo?
I don't know. I've got several of their albums.
Yeah, they're
But
good.
anyway, they had
go
a bunch of other stuff that it was really good that nobody ever played.
Yeah.
But they played all kinds of stuff and stuff that I never heard. They played like Deep Purple, and I think they even played some Black Sabbath and stuff like that. So
Nice.
but anyway, so they played all this, and Alice Cooper, and then Jethro Tull, and now that it's coming back to me, it's all I used to listen every night, as many nights as I could.
So how did you find out when shows were coming our way? Like just from the radio?
Yeah, I guess so. Or people told me that, hey, this guy's such and such is coming. I said, well, I'm going to go to that.
Okay.
And so, and another thing they did back in the late 60s and early 70s, they used to have ramp dances.
What's that?
All right. I think it was a band called The American Breed. I think they had a song called Bend Me, Shape Me.
Oh, yeah, I love that song.
And they played on the Locust Street parking ramp.
Mm-hmm.
On the top of it, on the top floor of it.
Okay.
In fact, I saw Three Dog Night at the Iowa Street parking ramp in '73.
Okay.
But they used to have ramp dances where they have local bands or something like that on a Friday or Saturday night or whenever it was, and we'd go out there and listen to some bands play, and people danced and had a good time, and they don't do that anymore. I think they're afraid of the weight of the people and all the people up there. Might not sit well with the ramp and all that. So, but anyway, I don't know why they don't do it anymore. That might be one of the reasons. But plus, people might be trying to jump off the ramp or something, do crazy stuff like that. So,
yeah, you never know. I could see somebody doing that these days.
yeah, me too. So they don't do that anymore. But you don't see it. We used to get a lot of good concerts, even at the Five Flags back in the day.
Yeah, that's what I want to hear about.
Kiss was here 5 times. Rush was here 3 times.
Yeah.
I've seen Ted Nugent 3 or 4 times.
All at the
I
Flags?
saw this. Yeah. No, once out at the fairgrounds.
Okay.
But I've seen the Scorpions and Sammy Hagar and Queensryche and Twisted Sister in the same concert.
Nice.
I saw. Roy Gallagher and Rush was one of the concerts I saw.
Wow.
I saw
at Flags?
Yeah.
Wow.
I saw Loverboy. I saw they were okay, but
my first concert was Skid Row and Pantera at Flags, but
yeah, I was at the concert. Didn't like Pantera. Skid Row was good, but
Skid Row was great. You didn't like Pantera?
I don't like Pantera.
I thought they were great.
I'm not into that thrash, stuff that much.
No, I know you're not.
I like good singing. Some of these guys just can't sing.
Well, the guy from Pantera can actually hit some notes, but
I wish he would.
It's not really.
Yeah. And plus, some of that stuff is, being that I'm a Christian and I believe in Jesus Christ as my Savior,
Right.
some of that stuff is heavily satanic. I don't want to hear that stuff. That's not good.
No, I know. I understand that.
And so...
that's why you were never a big fan of like King Diamond.
That's right. I mean, the guy's probably great, musically talented and all that.
He's got a hell of a set of pipes on him.
Yeah, he does. He can hit those high notes.
Yeah.
But it's what he's into that...
No, I understand. It makes sense.
See, I remember one time...
You can't get behind a band that,
I remember one time, this is back when I was in college.
Uh-huh.
There was a guy there. One night I was walking down the hall of the dorm.
Right.
And this one kid was jumping up and down on his bed, going nuts. I said, what happened to him? Oh, he was messing around with something called a Ouija board. I said, well, geez, if they did that to him, I sure don't want nothing to do with those things now. I found out what they were really about, and I thought, nah, I don't want nothing to do with those things. And so, forget that. And then there was a place back in the early 70s. First, it was down on Jones and Main Street for a little while. It was called the Cornerstone.
Mm-hmm.
And what it was supposed to be is if kids were having problems at home with drugs or something, you could go down and talk to these counselors and stuff like that. But it was also kind of a place to hang out.
Right.
And I did their lights for them and all that sort of thing, and their fluorescents and things like that. So
right.
Then it moved over here to 721 Bluff Street.
Okay.
After they lost their lease or whatever on the building down there. And of course the building was a little smaller up here on 721.
Right.
And so there was this one guy. He went to the University of Dubuque. He's a student up there. His name was Bill something. That was his real name.
Okay.
But he changed his name to Dr. Christopher Syn, S-Y-N.
Okay.
And he was into these stuff called seances and shit. Well, that guy, and he was a freaky looking dude too. He really was weird.
Was he?
Oh yeah, he was freaky.
Christopher Syn.
Yeah, Dr. Christopher Syn. I said, look, I don't want nothing to do with you, pal. I know what you're into.
Right.
I don't want anything to do with you. You know, you're into satanic stuff, and I don't want nothing to do with that stuff. That stuff's bad news. And I didn't have nothing to do with it. As soon as he'd come in the door, I'd be gone. I'd go home right away. I'm out of here. Forget it. You know. And well, the place closed up in '73, and that was the end of that. But you know, people that are into bad things, like I hung around the hippies a lot, and some of the stuff that they did to themselves, and living at the ION for the many years that I did, the 26 and a half years, and
You saw some shit, probably.
I saw a lot of shit, and the drugs and the alcohol and the things that people were into that just, you're not helping yourself here, pal. I mean, I don't want to end up like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all I did was just see what was going on around me. You know, like I was down at the lift one night. I was talking to this one guy we know.
Not going to name names.
Huh?
Not
No,
gonna name names.
I'll leave his name out of it.
Okay.
But and he's a decent guy.
Mhm.
And he's not in town right now anyway, so. But anyway, he was really hammered. I mean, he was hard to stand up. I says, wait a minute. I said, you are so hammered you can't hardly stand up. I said, now what fun is that? You know, I mean, I've known people that went to concerts that got so stoned they don't even remember what happened at the concert.
Yeah.
What sense does that make?
Right.
I mean, every concert I've ever gone to, good or bad, I knew what was going on.
Sure.
I paid attention, you know? And I didn't get, you know, stoned or drunk or anything like that because I wanted to really enjoy the music.
Right.
And I've been to a lot of concerts, and I really enjoyed the music.
Right.
Like last summer when I went down and saw Tommy James and the Shondells and Grand Funk Railroad at the America's River Festival.
Yeah, like this past
That
year,
was a
right?
great concert.
Yeah.
I wasn't a big
I
America
missed
fan,
that
but they were okay. But I was more into Tommy James and the Shondells and Grand Funk Railroad.
Yeah.
And they were really good. Huh?
Who was the third one?
America.
Oh, yeah, America.
They were okay, but I wasn't nuts over them, you know. They weren't hard enough for me.
Yeah.
I like to boogie.
Yeah, I know you do.
Yeah.
And I've seen you, you know, open mics and, you know, things like that. I've seen you get up and sing with bands before.
Oh, yeah.
I know you love doing that.
Well, in 1969, me and Dave Chalmers of the Butterscotch Grower and a few other people, we hitchhiked down to Iowa City because they're going to have this great big outdoor rock festival. And the Crazy World of Arthur Brown was supposed to be there.
Oh, wow.
And he never showed up. And I was bummed because I really wanted to see him.
Yeah.
This guy
They're
was
great.
something else. This guy, remember, I saw him on the Tom Jones show back in the late 60s
Arthur
on
Brown?
TV. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
He had this crown that he wore on his head, and the flames would go
the
around like
flames,
that.
yeah.
And somehow he had his head protected so he wouldn't hurt himself.
Yeah. He's cool.
But I thought, wow, this guy is something else, you know.
So he made you want to be a front man, or?
No, I just liked getting up and singing. I thought rock and roll. You know, Mick Jagger said, "I know it's only rock and roll, but I like it, love it. Yes, I do." And the thing is, I love getting up and singing, but I didn't want to do it every week. I didn't want to do it all the time.
Yeah.
I
Once
want
in
to
a
do
while.
it. I want to do it once in a while because it's fun.
Right.
When people start to expect too much out of me and stuff like that, and that's what's happened with a lot of stars, like Jimi Hendrix was. They, you know, instead of sitting back and enjoying how talented he really was,
Yeah.
people started making demands on him that were unbelievable, and it really was unfair. And Janis Joplin the same way, you know.
Yeah.
Plus, her family in Texas wasn't too cool to her either.
Right.
And Tommy James wrote this book called Me, the Mob, and the Music. It was about the scene back in the 60s.
Right.
And, you know, the mob was right in on a lot of the record companies back then. And a lot of the bands got screwed out of their pay, which is too bad. But anyway, I found out a lot. A friend of mine read this book to me. And told me what was in it. She read the book, but she told me what was in it. And I thought, oh, okay, very interesting. I grew up listening to some of the greatest rock and roll musicians that ever walked the face of the earth.
Definitely.
And
so naturally, you'd want to maybe get up once in a while and perform for somebody.
Well, I sang
you're good at it too. I've seen you do it.
I saw Rock and Roll Rewind last year. In fact, you can see it on the video. If you go to www.digitaldubuque.com, and after you do that, you type in video, and then go down and it'll take you to Rock and Roll Rewind 2014. Then there's a link on there to Rock and Roll Rewind 2015, and then that's where you'll find it. And I sang the last song on Friday night with Mississippi. I sang Little Red Rooster, and on Saturday night with Denny Garcia and Friends, Crossroads. So
yeah, I've seen you do Crossroads with quite a few ensembles.
I've done Crossroads many times with lots of people.
Yeah. Little Red Rooster, I've never seen you do, but I know you're a big blues guy.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Did you ever have the desire to, play an instrument or anything? Or
I've tried my hand.
Can you play?
I've played at it a little bit.
Guitar? Or?
Yeah, I've tried that, but I just can't get this hand going very fast for some reason.
Yeah.
And
you could probably do the strumming a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, I could probably strum a little bit, but I'm not,
Yeah.
And I tried.
You're a hell of an air guitar player. I've seen you do it.
Yeah. But I've tried my hand at the drums
a
little bit when I was in 5th grade.
Cool.
But I never got to really sit behind a drum kit that much. And this hand is my weaker hand, so I can't somehow get this going as fast as I can this hand. Just the way it's always been. But I still, I told once at the choir director at the church I go to, First Congregational United Church of Christ, when she was choir director, I said, well, one reason I could never be in choir is I don't know how to read music. She said, well, we need people to listen to. I said, oh, that's cool.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, she's a real nice lady. She's not choir director anymore, but she's, still goes there.
Yeah. So, Ray, you've been a Dubuquer for most of your life.
Yep.
What can you tell me about Dubuque that maybe I don't already know? Do you love Dubuque? Do you love living here?
I like her. Oh, you bet. Dubuque's a good town. It's changed a lot over the years, like the rest of the world, there's a lot of things are just the same.
Right.
The old stuff is getting harder to find. We don't get as many good concerts in Dubuque as we used to, which is too bad.
That's too bad. But don't you think that there's especially like the people, like you and I, and the people in this room sort of surround ourselves with, it's a good crew.
Oh yeah, exactly. There's a lot of good people in this town. I wish we had a baseball team like we used to, but there's just certain things you're not going to have anymore. It's just the way life is,
That's right.
But I remember, like the 2 years I went to high school here, and I had to go to school seeing out only one eye, so
yeah, true.
It was harder for me than most people, but
yeah.
And if I went back to school with what they're teaching now and all this computerized stuff, I'm sorry, pal, we can't. You're not going to pass this class. You just just don't think it, And a lot of this modern stuff is nuts.
Right.
Like today, I got this call. Now listen to this. I got this call from somebody. They say, "Well, your name has been picked for $9,200." Yeah, right. Somebody out of the blue is going to give me $9,200, just like that. Come on, that's a scam, and you know it.
Right. But that's not. That's everywhere. That's not. That's not specific to this.
No,
town.
That's not specific. That's everywhere. That's true.
That's everywhere.
It's everywhere, and I just,
At least you knew, where they were coming from.
Oh,
you nipped it in the bud.
Oh, exactly. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna have anything to do with any more of those telemarketers or any of those things like that. You call me, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Because I'm done with this.
Mm-hmm.
I've helped some of them organizations out a little bit in the past, and they just continue to hound you.
Yeah.
They just won't let They think you're loaded when you're not.
Right. For the most part, we got a good town here, right?
Oh yeah, we got a good town there.
Yeah. And what are you doing most of the time these days? Are your eyes okay enough to where you can ride your bike?
Oh yeah, I can ride my bike and all that. I just have a tough time reading right now.
Okay.
But I go see
the eye
doctor.
The reading. You got to get up close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, if I want to read anything, this is a nice and bright little flashlight.
Oh, there you go.
So
that's probably a handy tool for you.
It helps.
Yeah.
But
I know
And the bar scene, I don't know. I think it used to be more funner than it is now.
used to be like when?
Well,
Like how long ago?
most of your bars now don't have pinball machines in them. I still love to play pinball. Pinball is still great. It always will be.
Yeah, that is your
But
deal, isn't it?
and you see, I was never any good at video games. But pinball, here's why I've always said pinball was better than video games, and it's still true today. In pinball, you can win games on score. You can win games matching at the end of the game, or you can light the special, hit the special, and get a game by doing that. So there's 3 ways to win games, just games. Now, another thing to help your score and the special and stuff is you can win extra balls. Where on video games, you can't do any of that stuff, a lot of that stuff. You know, once your guy dies or something like that, he's done, you know, or whatever the object is. I remember the old game Pac-Man. You ate up all those little dots that your character did, and Miss Pac-Man too. But you never got any bonuses in that. You just kept eating the dots and all that and tried to, you know. But the thing is, it never.
Well, that's not true. Sometimes they threw cherries and
I know,
oranges.
but you never. But I know, but you never got any replays.
No, that's true. It was kind of never ending, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could play a long time if you're really good, but you never got any replays.
You like game? I know you like pinball. You like games of skill, like dice.
Yeah, dice is a game of skill.
You play cards too?
Not so much anymore.
No.
I never played. I was never a big card player. I had played rummy over there in Monks for a while, but then Dave Hansen said I was too slow.
That sounds about right. Dave's an impatient man.
Sounds like, yes, he is impatient. He needs to relax.
Particularly these days.
Oh,
Maybe
I know.
We'll work on him.
Yeah. He says he's got to have the attention all the time.
I know it.
Come on, Ray.
Well, I love you, Ray. Thanks for coming down, man.
You bet. This is a
You
good time.
got anything else to add to this conversation?
Well, you got any more questions?
I don't think so. I think I'm good here.
But this bar was a fun bar back then, you know. Oh,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, there was
the Brothers 3, right?
Yeah, the Brothers 3.
Yeah.
But the
I
guy
wish I could picture it. So where was the bar? Right in the middle there?
right. Now the bar was over there,
Okay.
right over in that corner there, the bar, and then because I think the bathrooms were back there. It was right at where they're at. And
Yeah,
then,
we got bathrooms there still.
yeah, and then you had tables and chairs all over the place here. And then back in that corner over there, you had you got a fluorescent burning out over there, and
Fluorescent burning out over.
yeah, that one right there is dimmer than the rest of them.
Well, there's
I know there's a pink and a blue.
yeah, there's gels over. Is it gels?
over, but that's I can still tell through that.
Okay.
But,
Well, you're good.
because if you look at that light there, and you look at that light over there, and you move your eyes back and forth like that,
Yeah.
there won't be much of a strobing effect. But if you look at that light right there, and you move your eyes back and forth like this,
Oh, actually,
there's a strobing effect.
I can see it now.
See
Yeah.
there? Plus, it's kind of black at that one end.
Most of that didn't get picked up because you're not talking to the mic. But that's okay.
I got it. Okay. Well, anyway, that fluorescent over there is burning out.
All right, Ray. Thanks for coming down talking to me.
Oh, you bet.
All right, buddy. Okay, Ray Harpo Hutchinson. Man, that it's great talking to that guy. He's always got so many great stories. And I was just glad that he was able to make it down. I'm actually kind of an asshole now that I think about it for not asking him where the nickname comes from, because I don't think I even know that story. And even if I have been told it before, I don't remember it. And I think it just would have been an interesting addition to this show. But anyway, that'll give me an excuse to have him back on the show some other time. But anyway, again, thank you, Ray, for coming down and making time for us. That was great. That was a good time. Now, upcoming, let me remind you one more time, the Music Series 10 show is coming up on November 20th, and that's going to feature Atala from Oshkosh, Wisconsin, Aseeth from Iowa City, and Sludge Burner from right here in Dubuque. And I'm going to be talking to Brian and Eric from Aseeth for this show, an episode of the podcast coming up, so that should be good. Also, on the Ruix front, the first installment of the In Harmony series. It's a collaboration that we're doing here for cable access television. And that will be, like I said, we're going to film that on this Sunday, and that'll be with Dredge. So look for that. It'll be on MC22, channel MC22 on cable. If you are in the area, or the Dean Wellman YouTube channel if you are not. Definitely something to look forward to. Also, upstairs at the DAAC Gallery is the Dark Slide Skateboard Show on November 28th, which will feature live music from Telekinetic Yeti, Snuff Queen, both those bands are from Dubuque, and then The Micromantis from Denver, and Garbageman from Milwaukee. And that art show will be hanging the 28th, obviously for the rest of November, and then into December, and possibly into the new year yet. We don't know exactly how long, but and then, of course, the first readings under the Influence show will happen on December 12th, and that will coincide with the release of the next Ruix zine, and it will also coincide with the art sale that we are having. I mistakenly said the 12th and 13th at the beginning of the show. I'm sorry. I'm gonna retract that, and it's actually the 11th and 12th of December. It's that weekend anyway, but I just had the dates mixed up. So keep that in mind. The RUI show is actually 21 plus, so keep that in mind. You can't bring any children to the show. And why would they want to come anyway? It's just, it's not going to be their thing. Trust me on that one. But anyway, like I said, it's going to coincide with the next Ruix release. And speaking of that, if you do intend on being, having something that you've written in the next Ruix, then I encourage you to submit your writing very soon. November 14th is the deadline, and you should submit that to submitdaac@gmail.com. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.